Ever scroll through social media and you're like, wait, how did they know I needed that? Or maybe you get sucked in by those clever commercials, during your favorite show. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. The crazy, ever-changing world of advertising. And we're not just talking big picture stuff here. This is about you. You sent over that stack of resources from RoleCatcher, which, by the way, is an awesome platform for anyone looking to navigate advertising careers. So we're going to tailor this whole deep dive to what you're interested in. I'm talking those in-depth guides they have, interview tips, even some AI tools to give you a leg up. But before we get lost in all that, let's hit the basics. What does an advertising manager actually do?
It's definitely more than coming up with catchy slogans, that's for sure.
Right, like those brainstorming sessions with the beanbag chairs and ping pong tables. That's not the whole story, is it? Nope, not even close. RoleCatcher's Guide, Advertising Manager, the complete career guide says it's all about bringing marketing strategies to life. It sounds kind of vague when you put it like that, but trust me, there's a ton that goes on behind the scenes.
So not all fun and games then?
Definitely not. We're talking hardcore project management skills, juggling budgets, even some pretty intense negotiations.
Ooh, the negotiation part caught my eye too. The guide mentioned something about securing contracts with agencies, and apparently those conversations can get interesting.
For sure, especially these days. The guide's whole section on industry trends really highlights how much everything's shifting towards digital platforms.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Social media campaigns, those ads that seem to follow you around online, influencers. It's a whole different ballgame now. Exactly. So you're not just managing creative teams and budgets, you're also navigating this constantly shifting digital landscape. You need to be adaptable, to say the least.
Adaptable, you think?
Yeah.
That sounds like you need to be able to handle some serious curveballs.
Oh, absolutely. One story from RoleCatcher that really stuck with me was about this whole campaign that had to be completely reworked at the last minute because of some algorithm change on a social media platform. Talk about pressure.
Wow. Talk about a fast-paced environment.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that being organized and able to think on your feet is just as crucial as being creative in this field.
100%. And honestly, that's something that comes up again and again in all these RoleCatcher resources. This is a career where you got to be proactive, resourceful, and always thinking a few steps ahead.
Okay, so for anyone listening who might be picturing a more, shall we say, laid-back kind of career, advertising might not be the best fit.
Yeah.
But for those who thrive under pressure, it sounds seriously exciting. Let's be real, though. Is this career path really right for you? What are some of the pros and cons people should think about before jumping in? RoleCatcher definitely doesn't try to sugarcoat anything, which I appreciate. That pros and cons section was pretty eye-opening, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag, like most careers, honestly.
True.
I mean, on the plus side, there's definitely potential to make some serious bank.
Oh yeah, everyone knows advertising can be lucrative, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about the money either. The guide also talks about how exciting it can be to work with all kinds of different clients, bringing all sorts of projects to life.
That's got to keep things interesting, right? Always something new.
Oh, for sure. That variety can be super stimulating. Like, no 2 days are the same. But on the flip side...
Yeah, what about those downsides? There's always a catch, right?
Right, exactly. And RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from that. They're like, hey, this fast-paced environment, it can also mean crazy long hours, and the pressure's always on to adapt.
You really think you need to be okay with a little bit of chaos, huh? Maybe even thrive on it.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. The guide even uses the phrase thriving on deadlines, which, let's be honest...
And not everyone's cup of tea.
Exactly.
And on top of all that, there's the whole competitive side of things to consider. I mean, think about it. Everyone's seen Mad Men, right? Like the battle for clients, the pressure to constantly come up with the next big idea.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And RoleCatcher section on interview tips. They're not messing around. They really stress how important it is to stand out from the crowd. It's not enough to just have the skills. You got to know how to sell yourself, sell your ideas, basically 24/7.
So it's not just being good at the job. It's like being good at talking about being good at the job, too.
Yeah, kind of, right? Like you have to be your own biggest cheerleader all the time.
Which, let's be real, for some people that sounds amazing. And for others, it's like their worst nightmare, probably.
Yeah, it's definitely a personality thing.
So it's all about knowing yourself, your strengths, your limits, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's say, just for fun, that none of that scares you off. You're like, sign me up. I'm ready for all that creative problem solving and those high-stakes campaigns. Where do you even start? How do you go from daydreaming about jingles to actually, like, managing them in real life?
That's where RoleCatcher really comes in clutch. They don't just leave you hanging with some vague advice like, oh, just go get experience. No, they give you an actual roadmap, like their career stages section. It's super detailed. They lay out that typical path, starting with entry-level roles like an advertising assistant and going all the way up to manager.
So there's a clear progression, a way to climb the ladder, basically. That's good to know, especially if you're coming from a totally different background. Not everyone studied marketing in college, right?
Right. And even if you did, it's still helpful to see it laid out like that.
Totally. So what are some of those first steps someone could take, like, to get their foot in the door?
Well, they suggest internships, which, duh, right?
Yeah, that's classic for a reason.
Exactly. But they go beyond that, too. They're all about volunteering for different organizations if you can get some marketing experience that way, even working on personal projects just to build up your portfolio. It's all about showing that you're willing to hustle, You're not waiting around for someone to hand you an opportunity. You're out there making it happen.
So it's kind of like that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but with a twist.
Right.
Yeah, connections are great, but you also got to be able to back it up with actual skills.
100%. You got to show them what you got.
Speaking of showcasing your skills,
Yeah.
RoleCatcher's big on the whole certifications thing. They mentioned Google Ads, which is mastering online advertising campaigns.
Yeah?
And then there's HubSpot inbound marketing, Facebook Blueprint.
Oh, yeah. They're big on those.
But those aren't just random bullet points to throw on your resume, right? It's more than that.
Oh, yeah. Way more. It shows you're serious, you're not just casually interested in this field, you're invested.
It's a signal to potential employers like, hey, I'm committed to this. I'm staying up to date. I'm learning the latest and greatest, which, we've already talked about how fast this industry changes, right?
Yeah.
So that's huge.
Totally. It shows you can keep up.
Okay. So we've talked about what it actually takes to be an advertising manager, the good, the bad, and the demanding. We've even touched on how to get started, like those concrete first steps. But we can't wrap this up without talking about the elephant in the room, or I guess I should say the platform that's been guiding our whole conversation, RoleCatcher.
Right.
It's clearly way more than just some basic job board. It's like a whole career toolkit, but specifically designed for people who want to make it in advertising.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
So what are your thoughts on that? What makes RoleCatcher stand out?
Well, for me, it's the features they highlight in those jobs and your competitive edge sections, They really drive home that idea of them being a toolkit, not just a job board.
They really do go above and beyond the typical job board experience.
Totally. Remember how you called it a toolkit earlier? Well, they have this browser plugin thing, right? You can actually save jobs from anywhere on the internet.
Seriously? Anywhere?
Yeah. So, you're on some industry blog or even checking out a competitor's website. Boom! See a job that sounds interesting, you can just grab it right there.
That's genius, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like they actually get how people look for jobs these days. Nobody wants to be stuck using those same old job sites,
I know, right? And speaking of knowing what people need, have you seen their AI features yet?
The AI stuff. I did skim that section, yeah. But honestly, it kind of went over my head a bit. What exactly does that even do?
Okay, so get this, right? You upload your resume just like you normally would, but then their AI goes in and actually analyzes it.
Okay, analyzes it how?
Well, here's the thing. It tailors the analysis to the specific job you're applying for. It's not just some general, here are your strengths, here are your weaknesses kind of thing.
Whoa, hold on. So it's different every time, depending on the job.
Exactly. It'll actually tell you, hey, this part of your resume is great for this specific role, or, this section could use a little work.
No way. That's way better than those generic resume scanners everyone uses.
Right. Talk about taking out all the guesswork. And get this, it doesn't even stop there.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah. So they have a whole interviews page, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, they have these AI-powered practice sessions where you can get feedback on your interview answers in real time.
Okay, now that is seriously cool. So instead of just practicing in front of the mirror, you're getting actual insights on how to improve.
Exactly. It's like having a personal coach in your pocket, basically.
Wow. You really do have to hand it to RoleCatcher. They've thought of everything.
They really have. And in a field as cutthroat as advertising, that kind of edge can make all the difference.
I'd say. So we've covered a lot of ground today. We went from figuring out what an advertising manager does all day to mapping out a whole career path and even finding some secret weapons to help you get ahead.
It's a lot to take in. But hopefully it shows that, with the right tools and resources, breaking into advertising isn't some impossible dream. It's totally doable.
100%.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening who's feeling that little spark of excitement, that nudge from the universe, what would you say is the most important thing to remember?
That information is power, especially in advertising. The more you know about the trends, what skills you need, what resources are out there, the more prepared you'll be to actually succeed. And platforms like RoleCatcher, they're making it so much easier to get that information.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Knowing where to look for information, and more importantly, knowing how to actually use it to your advantage, that's everything in today's world. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. If you're excited about the world of advertising, if you think this might be the career for you, don't be afraid to go for it. There are so many resources out there, tools, even entire communities, ready to support you every step of the way. So get out there, embrace the challenge, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one coming up with the next unforgettable campaign.